Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant in Philly for the first time. And honestly, you could feel the electricity through your screen. Starting from that day, these two players changed the entire trajectory of the Philadelphia sports history. Here were two young phenoms, barely old enough to drink, going head to head while carrying the weight of an entire generation of doubters on their shoulders. You know that feeling when you're 19 and everyone is just waiting for you to screw up? That was these guys, except their screw-ups would be dissected on SportsCenter for 3 straight days. This wasn't just basketball, this was survival. Getting to the NBA requires talent, but staying there, that is a completely different animal. These kids had dared to demand multi-million-dollar contracts straight out of high school. Well, Kobe did. And college, AI. And now the stakes couldn't have been higher. They were swimming in the deepest part of the ocean, and if they went under, the fall would be catastrophic. Here's the landscape. Philadelphia, led by the enigmatic Derek Coleman and featuring future stars Allen Iverson and Jerry Stackhouse. Meanwhile, the Lakers, wait for it, acquired 9 new players that season. 9. It was like the real world meets the NBA, except instead of arguing about who ate the last piece of pizza, they were trying to figure out how to win basketball games. The crown jewel of Jerry West's master plan, Shaquille O'Neal and his extraordinary $120 million contract. But what about rookie AI? Here's the thing, the kid was the real deal from day one. He had that indefinable quality, you know it when you see it, that separates the stars from the superstars. It is like the difference between a really good cover band and the Beatles. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know.
I don't know, I feel every matchup is my favorite. I'm always going to look at it like that. But there's so many great players, point guards definitely in this league. And I don't know, you can't take anybody for granted. So I'm going to play those guys just like I would play anybody else.
8 days after suffering a separated left shoulder, and I mean separated, not, oh, my shoulder is a little bit sore, Iverson absolutely torched the New York Knicks. This was the same Knicks team that thought they could challenge Jordan's Bulls and Riley's Heat in the East. What shoulder injury? It was like watching Willis Reed walk onto the court at Madison Square Garden, except instead of one iconic moment, AI was doing it every night. Just when everyone thought Iverson was moving as fast as humanly possible, he somehow found another gear. He single-handedly lifted Sixers to a stunning 109-92 victory over New York. After a loss to Washington, he walked straight up to the team owner Pat Croce, not some assistant, not his agent, but the owner, and said, "I want to play." Everyone assumed he was still injured. Everyone was wrong. 26 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists in 42 minutes. For context, the year before drafting Iverson, the same 76ers team didn't notch their 6th win until January. That is like being on a diet and not losing your first pound until Easter. Now they were facing the Lakers at home, and Iverson looked quicker and stronger than ever. Early on, the Sixers jumped out of a 10-point halftime lead and were absolutely cooking. They even tried the old hack a Shaq strategy. You remember this back when fouling Shaq was basically a sound of defensive strategy because the man shot free throws like he was throwing darts blindfolded. It actually worked in the first half, limiting the big fella to just 12 points while 20,000 Philly fans lost their minds. But here's where basketball gets beautiful and cruel at the same time. Momentum is everything, and in the second half, it swung like a wrecking ball toward Los Angeles. Bill Harris made the kind of halftime adjustment that coaching legends are made of. The Lakers switched to a smaller, quicker lineup and everything flipped upside down. It was like watching The Empire Strikes Back. You know things are about to get real and they're not going to go well for the good guys. Against that second half trap, Iverson's game completely unraveled. The kid who had been unstoppable for months suddenly looked mortal. He finished with 16 points. Just 16 points on 6 for 27 shooting. If you are doing the math at home, that is 22%. He had 1 assist and 1 steal in the second half. 1. After the game, he looked crushed and hurried out of the locker room like a teenager who'd just gotten dumped at prom. The Sixers turned the ball over 23 times, 9 in the third quarter alone. You could see Iverson struggling with his signature crossover because every time he tried to extend his left arm, you could tell it was killing him. He probably rushed back from that shoulder injury, but that is what made AI special. He'd rather play hurt than not play at all. Meanwhile, LA was figuring things out. Shaq, who had been shooting 46% from the free throw line, I mean, come on, suddenly went 5 for 6 from the stripe when it mattered. He grabbed 20 rebounds and scored 9 crucial fourth quarter points. Sometimes the basketball gods just decide it is your night. And then there was Kobe, playing 30 minutes from his hometown for the first time since graduating from Lower Merion High School. And by the way, how many suburban Philadelphia kids dream of this exact moment? It is like if every pickup basketball fantasy you had as a 12-year-old suddenly became real, except there are 20,652 people watching, the largest crowd to ever watch a basketball game in Pennsylvania at that point. Eddie Jones was flying around like a man possessed, recording 8 steals, 8 and 23 points, but it was his defense that stole the show. Forget the 23 points. His defense shut those guys down. They couldn't get anything going. Jones turned the Sixers offense into a turnover factory. The turning point came when Kobe, scoreless at halftime, mind you, gave the Lakers the lead for good at 81-80 with 6:45 to play. Here's a kid who had been getting garbage time minutes all season, stepping up in his hometown like he'd been doing this for years. He finished with 12 points, including a pair of clutch three-pointers that put the game away. Derek Coleman, remember him? The guy who once posterized Shaq and gave him the finger whack back in Shaq's rookie year, hit a three-pointer to pull Sixers within 4. For a second, you could feel the building about to explode, but the Lakers answered with 6 straight points, and that was it. Game over. Dreams deferred. Here's what made this game special. Both players' family in the crowd. It wasn't just basketball. It was 2 kids trying to make their families proud in front of the people who raised them. That is some Field of Dreams level emotional stuff right there. Earlier that summer, Magic Johnson had watched these Lakers in training camp and made one of those bold predictions that sound crazy until it doesn't. He said this team had the potential to be more exciting than his championship teams from the 80s, more exciting than Showtime. Magic actually participated in pickup games with Kobe and Shaq, and what he saw made him believe they had more guys who could finish fast breaks than even those legendary Lakers squads. The talent was obvious. Eddie Jones, Kobe Bryant, Nick Van Exel, and a young athletic Shaq who could actually run the floor. But talent and chemistry are 2 different things. And in 1996-97, this Lakers team was still trying to figure out how to score 100 points consistently. What made this game fascinating was watching the NBA's youth movement in real time. Derek Fisher and Travis Knight both played significant minutes. These weren't just rotational players, they were kids learning how to be professionals while the whole basketball world watched. Kobe had spent 4.5 years in nearby Ardmore, Pennsylvania, basically a 30-minute drive from the arena, and single-handedly accounted for about 100 ticket sales. Eddie Jones, a Temple guy, got 45 tickets. On the team plane flying in, both Jones and Kobe were talking about how excited they were, how they wanted to put on a show and prove that Philly hadn't seen anything yet. I know I'll be playing in Philly for a lot years to come, Kobe said after the game. I can't be overwhelmed by one game. What kind of 18-year-old talks like that? It was like having a 30-year-old veteran in a teenager's body. When Kobe finally made his first basket at the end of the third quarter, it was his first field goal in Philadelphia since his state high school semifinal game. Think about that for a second. His last-minute shot in his hometown had been in a win-or-go-home high school game where everything was on the line. In high school, lose and you're done. In the NBA, as Kobe was learning, lose and you get to try again in 82 more chances. After the game, Kobe and the Lakers boarded a flight to Boston for another night in another hotel. The glamorous life of a professional athlete, right? But here's what we know now that we didn't know then. Both AI and Kobe survived. More than survived, they thrived. Looking back, this game was like watching the opening credits of two legendary careers. You had Allen Iverson, the undersized guard who played bigger than his 6-foot frame, learning that sometimes talent isn't enough, you need help. And you had Kobe Bryant, the suburban Philadelphia kid, learning that sometimes the biggest stages bring out your best, even when you're nervous enough to throw up an air ball on your first drive. Both players made Philly proud that night, even though only one team won. Sometimes the most important games aren't about the final score. They're about the moment when potential transforms into reality, when kids become stars, and when you realize you're watching something special that you'll be talking about for the next 25 years. That is exactly what happened in Philadelphia that night. Two legends were born, even if only one of them knew it at the time.